This next activity, we're going to be looking at the art element of line. Again, we've done so with the jelly printing and the paint, but now we're going to do it in a more sculptural way. As Van Gogh sculpted with his paint on the painting, it was thick and it moved and it was very sculptural. So we'll start looking at line again by looking at a few of his works. So this first work, you can see the short lines, and the lines have movement. And we know a line is something that moves and it starts at a point, or as someone said, you can take your point and make it go for a walk. So the lines are moving around, these are short dashed lines, and that gives the sky movement, and that goes up the tree, and you can see the lines walking around the page. Just going to a close-up, these dashed lines. So there's many, many, many lines moving around. So a circle and a swirl, dashed, different colours. And again in his self-portrait. So he's got the lines in the background, he's got different lines on his face and his hair, and also even in his clothes. So the background's swirly, the face, it's smaller and dashed. The hair, the lines are longer and flowing. And again, the clothes, they're a bit darker, which makes the clothes come forward. So we really want to investigate lines. So what we're going to do is a warm-up activity. So give your students a piece of white paper, and we're going to give them about 1 minute. And I'm going to do it with you. And all they have to do is do as many different lines as they can. And then this will then become a reference sheet. So I'll start with a dot, a dash, a swirl, a wave, longer dashes, straight line, a contour line, which is a line that follows a line. Let's see, what else could I do? Zigzag. Someone always does a zigzag, which, as you can see, is very hard, and we're not going to use zigzags, and that's a conversation you could have with your students. Van Gogh doesn't use zigzags. We're using more the dotted and the flowy lines. Okay, so once you've got that sheet, that can become a reference or a discussion point, and you can see what the students are thinking, and then you can go back and forward a little bit. The equipment that we're going to be using for this next activity, we have embossing foil. We're going to use the fun foam sheets underneath. You need an old biro. We're going to use the washi tape, the glitter and the black and white textured, patterned. And we're going to use the adhesive metallic colours. So let's start with the embossing foil. You might have to go over some safety rules for the students. When you cut the embossing foil, which I cut mine for the students and have it pre-prepared, it sharpens your scissors. So that's just a little teacher fact. You cut the embossing foil and your scissors will be nice and sharp. But it is metal, so it is very, very sharp, and you can slice your finger open on it. So you can either just explain this to the students and have a discussion about safety and where to put your hands and how to pick it up, or you can use masking tape and just tape down the corners, which might be very helpful, and then it will keep the work still. So I'm going to tape down the corners as one of the options. Van Gogh, he worked with the lines, but he also worked with the seasons. Nature was really, really important to him. He went out into nature to paint, which a lot of artists didn't do. A lot of the Impressionists painted, the Impressionists went outside, they broke the rules, but some artists like Gauguin, they painted inside, but Van Gogh went outside, and he loved the seasons and he worked with the seasons. So you can use this fact with the students and their colour choices. We're going to use the washi tape and the adhesive metallic squares because of the colours, the texture and the patterns. Now this first part of the work is a little bit abstract. What I mean by that is the students aren't making a picture. We're focusing on line, and we're creating line through ripping or cutting if you choose, and it's sensory, and there's not really a thought process. It's more of a relaxation, getting into the feel of it and just exploring. So to start off with, I'll just go through the metallic papers, and I've chosen autumn colours. So I'm looking at a warm palette. I've chosen pinks, coppers, reds, and same with the washi tape, I've chosen those colours. As a contrast, I have got the black and white patterns. You can do it with warm colours, cool colours, seasonal colours, or you might not want to have any of those rules at all. You might just go for it, let the students pick whatever they like and mix it all up, or have complementary. But I'm going with the autumn colours. So when I hand out the adhesive paper, I actually cut it into strips, which stops waste. So I'm going to start with this. On the back, there are little lines where that's how the students pull off the stickiness. So I'm going to take one of these and take that off. Now, if I cut the paper, I get a hard edge, and if I rip the paper, I get a soft edge. So I'm just going to start by layering a little bit of this paper on. And you can see the ripped edge here and the comparison of the hard straight edge, and that's something you might want to discuss with students. And it's same with the washi tape. This can be ripped or cut. I actually think you should do ripping only because it's sensory and it gives a beautiful line, and you can overlay it. I want to get a nice long rip. There we go. And then if I was going to use one of these ones, I'm bringing in pattern. So we've got colour, we've got texture with the glitter, and we've got patterns. So we're addressing 3 of the art elements. I'm going to get on with this, and I'm just going to stick some of these down how I feel. And I'm going to put some music on, and I'm just going to enjoy the process. Because the process is so free, this gives the students a real opportunity to explore, relax, and just enjoy what they're doing. They don't have to have any anxiety about getting it right or wrong. It's abstract, so it's just purely for enjoyment and exploration. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to get on with it. So I've just come to the end, and I've been ripping and just placing the paper on anywhere, or even though I'm not thinking, I sort of am, because as I place a colour over a colour, it's having a little reaction in my brain, and I'm thinking, oh, that looks nice, and a little bit of the tape. And this is very, very abstract, and it looks like a little work of art all by itself, but there's more. So we're going to take this tape off, and the students are going to flip the foil over. Now this could be the second lesson if you wanted it to be, because you don't want to run out of time, and we don't want to rush the students. So you could have the discussion about line, you could have your 1 minute warm-up activity, and this is one of the lessons, the placing of the paper, and then this could be the next lesson. So we're going to be now focusing on line, and although we're drawing, we're not really drawing, we're embossing. And that's why you have to have this foam underneath. You need to have something soft and not the embossing foil straight onto the table, because the pen needs to soak into something. You can use newspapers or paper or a cutting mat, but this fun foam works best, I find. So I have a biro, an old biro, and a handy tip is that when you are doing the lines, if you start to draw side on like this, the pen doesn't seem to move as well over the foil. You need to keep the pen quite vertical and straight, and it will be better. So you've had a big discussion with your students about the variety of line, and now again in the same feeling of abstractness, we're going to explore line. The line has to be quite purposeful because it's got to be a strong line because they're pressing into the foil. Not like with the jelly print, it was soft and flowy. This has pressure. So we want the students to explore lines, so they're not going to do one type of line. I'm going to try and do long lines, dash lines, dotted lines. I'm going to try and have variety and really explore. I don't have to worry about what the picture looks like really. That's not a concern. The end product is going to look great no matter what they do, so we don't have to worry about what it's going to look like. We're really going to concentrate on the process. So I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to get to work. Okay, I think I'm done. So if you take a look, I have my embossing foil and I have an array of different marks and lines. I have short dash lines, longer lines, swirling lines, dotted lines, and I tried to make a circle out of little lines here, and I tried to have them going in different directions. So when I look at this, this looks like a work of art all by itself, but the real surprise is on the other side. So I'm going to take the tape off. And actually, because it is on both sides, you want to maybe consider that thought when we display. Okay, I'll just take that last one off. And now I'm going to see the lines combined with colour, pattern, layering, and that abstract autumn feel of the seasons. Ooh, that looks great. I love it. So there we go. Now, no colour and all the lines. And then how does that make you feel when it changes? Now I've got colour and I have texture and I have pattern, which makes it a lot more exciting. Now, this is not a 2D work, it's a 3D work, and you can run your fingers over it, it's sensory and you can touch it, and it's a work that you can touch without wrecking it. Comparing to like dry pastels, if I had a dry pastel drawing and I ran my fingers across it, I would smear it. Because this is embossing foil and it's 3D, you can actually encourage the students to feel the lines, and it feels really groovy. So there we have it. And now we do need to think about our display. The first thing I want to discuss with you, because this is double-sided, you do have an option of using glass. So if you are lacking in wall space, but you have lots of windows, this would be the perfect piece of work that could go up on a window. But you don't want to see blue tack, so I would say use the double-sided sticky tape. So this could go up on a window. One side of the window pane you'd see this, and on the other side you would see this. That's not how I'm going to display it, but that's an option. Now when we display work, I often use black paper because it makes the work pop and it usually looks the best. But because there's so many bright colours, and I really want to complement the colours, and sometimes I think it's nice for the children to have a say in how they display the work, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. When you're displaying the student's work, you choose the colour, you work out where it's going to hang up. At some point they need to start thinking about how they present their work. So by letting them choose the colour of the background is giving them a little bit of say-so in how it's displayed. So I'm going to get some different coloured paper and put it underneath the artwork, and we can have a look at how it changes. And you could do this activity with your students. So here's my artwork. And I'm going to start off with this fuchsia bright pink, which I love. And I love that with the bright pink. And it really sets the work off and all those warm colours. So warm and warm. Now I'm going to go for a cool colour for a bit of contrast. And I like that as well, probably not as much as the other one. Sticking with the theme of autumn. No, I don't like that at all, so that's a no for me. And this dark red, which is often a traditional colour in European galleries. And yeah, that's okay. For me, it's the hot pink. So I'm going to go back to the hot pink, and I need to stick this down. Now, it's not paper, it's embossing foil. So a glue stick won't do it. If you have super tack or thickened PVA, you could put PVA on, and you'd need to maybe weight it down, and that would stick. But I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape, and the students could do this themselves. So I'm turning it over, and I'm going to put 4 strips of double-sided sticky tape on the back. And I don't have to wait for it to dry. I'll put the longer strip there actually. I might have used a little bit too much. Okay. So the students can do, there's no reason why they can't do this. Once the tape's on, you just got to pick the edge. And this sometimes is the trickier bit. There's 1. 2. So if the students choose the colour for the background themselves, you'll have all different colours. And pop that on. I'm just going to hold that for a few seconds while I talk to you. My hands are big enough. So the students pick the background colour, the students put their work on the paper, and then you can hang it up on a wall with an explanation of what they did. Maybe a little bit of information about the artist, and maybe a little bit of information about the element of line. So when people come past and look at the display, they're not just looking at the artwork, they're understanding what they see.